here today with Tamsen Horton, who is an attorney. And like, I should not say that she is an attorney. I should say she is a fabulous attorney that specializes in working with moms. And Tamsen and I had the most wonderful call. I want to say it was like 6 months ago now, where I walked away from that call with so much clarity about what I needed to do in my business moving forward. And I know that you work with people to help them when they have copyright issues, when they're trying to figure out the legal issues of whether or not they hire people and how they protect their intellectual property. You work with moms, especially mommy entrepreneurs that are wanting to set up their business in a way that protects their families. You sent me the most amazing, it was like a mind map thing that was like, you're in the middle and here's your business. Here are all the different things that I can help you with. And you can click on each thing for more information. It was fantastic. And I just, I talk to everybody that needs an attorney. You're the first person that I tell them about, all the mommy entrepreneurs. So I'm so glad that I could feature you in my series because so many women, especially so many of the women that I work with that are emerging entrepreneurs that are coming in for relationship coaching. Like I was telling you, some of them are single moms that are dating for the first time, and others are women who have been married and they're not sure that they're going to be staying in their relationship. And like we were talking about, even though family law isn't an area of one of your areas of specialty, it is something that you have knowledge about and you can point them in the right direction to, because it's so
Mhm.
important to protect your assets. So
Mhm.
I've just talked a little bit about what you do and how marvelous you are, but I would
Aw.
like for you to please tell us what it is that you want our audience to know about what you can do for them.
Well, I'm so glad to be here. And as you know me, anytime I get to talk to mommypreneurs and women taking ownership of their own economy, I am all over it because that's really why I do what I do. And I created Vujade Law almost 5 years ago now, which just is insane because I needed a solution. I wanted to be a mom, but I also love being an attorney. And I quickly knew that I couldn't go into a traditional law field and there was no way I was leaving my son. And so it's evolved. I've grown with it, just like I've kind of grown up with my son, who's Kip. And my whole focus is helping busy moms, especially those running online businesses, um, make sure that they're protecting what matters most, that making sure that they're protecting the business in the smart ways when it needs to be protected, that they're not, because people say, oh, you need all this stuff. And I'm like, okay, you might need all that stuff in a year, but right now you just need this.
Right.
And also being really mindful because when you're the mom and you're making the money, what happens to you? What happens if you get hit by a bus? What happens if you can't work on the business for a period of time? And so they're so interconnected. And I just know that when you're educated and you know how the pieces work, hence the mind map, I love mind maps, then the fear goes away and you're like, oh, that wasn't so weird. I mean, I remember when we first talked, I was like, I promise law is fun. And I
Right.
remember at the beginning, you're like, okay,
I'm like, I hope you're right. I'm willing to trust you on this. And you were totally right. Like,
thank you.
once I understood it all, it was like, oh, yeah, okay. And
Yeah.
also, there was like, I felt really empowered. Like, now I
Yes.
know what's next. And like you
Yes.
said, one of the things I really loved about talking with you was that you were like, this is what makes sense for you at this point in your business.
Mm-hmm.
And then
Mm-hmm.
down the road, you'll want to do this,
Mm-hmm.
because I
Yeah.
know so many of the people, the ladies
Oh.
that are going to be listening to this are like at different points in their business, and
Mm-hmm.
they know that they need to get their ducks in a row, but they're like,
Mm-hmm.
what do I really need to do like
Right.
immediately?
Right.
Yeah,
Like, what's my duck today? What's my
exactly.
duck in the next month? And then, okay, what should be on my radar? But you don't need to be doing it today. And that, I
Right.
mean, it's hard. I mean, the internet moves so quickly, and moms, let's face it, we're on the internet. That's where we get our information. It's how we make our connections. It's how we conduct business. And it's hard when you see a girlfriend say, oh, you've got to have this. This happened to me. It'll happen to you.
Hmm.
And it's like, wait, there's an element of truth in there, but you want someone that can can ask the right questions and
Yeah.
say, okay, that was what was right for her, but this, you're not her. Like
Right.
we all have different fingerprints. And so for you to go out and buy the same stuff
It might
could
not
hurt you
make
more.
any sense for you.
Right. It's like, okay, just put that on the shelf. You're still safe. You're not unprotected. That's just more than you need right now.
Right.
You don't need all that stuff. Because that's a huge frustration that I run into, just because people, other attorneys whose focus isn't necessarily the mom and doesn't have the mom perspective. And it's like, okay, no, I have a budget, and what do
Mm-hmm.
I need now?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I realize my son will need shoes for the next 20 years, but I'm not buying the next 20 years of shoes now.
Right.
I'm buying the shoes for the next 2 months. Okay, that's all I need. Thank you very much.
Right.
Okay. And
Right.
attorneys can be like that. They can be like, oh, you need all this stuff. And you're
Right.
like, hey, whoa there. Yes, she does.
But what do I need now?
Right. Exactly.
It's kind of like when you go to the mechanic and they're like, okay, we got to fix your brakes. We've got to do these things, all of these things. And you're like, okay, but what do I need right now
Yeah,
to be safe? And then can I pay those other thousands and thousands of dollars of repairs in a few more months?
exactly. Exactly. And
Right.
so that's been the fun part of my business, is being able to say, no, like, I can just be real and I can just be me. And it's like, yep, I get it. You need to make sure this is safe and this is safe, but this other stuff, just put it in your day planner, set a reminder. You don't need to worry about it right now. Go
Mm-hmm.
focus, build this, or make money over here, then come back,
Yeah.
So it's,
I
um,
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's such a service to mom entrepreneurs because I think that when we're launching businesses, I know for me that this was true. I had taken, I had taken the online marketing course that we've all taken,
mhm,
and I was getting information from all of these different places. And I felt like I had all of these different tools, but I
mhm.
had no idea what order I was supposed to do them in,
Yeah.
and I had no
Yeah.
idea which ones applied specifically to my business. So I was
Yep.
trying to do everything at once, which is like the
Mhm,
quickest path to being totally overwhelmed and not knowing what you're
mhm.
doing. So
Yeah.
then
And as a result, you get nothing done.
you get nothing done. So in the
Yep.
middle of that, trying to set up a business and going, do I do a website first or do I start blogging first or do I, all of these things? Then
Hmm.
somebody goes, well, do you know if you're protected legally? And you're like, oh my God, I didn't even think about that. And you're like,
Yeah.
who do I talk to about that?
Yeah.
On
And in
top of,
your head, you're going, okay, I'm pretty sure that legal is way more important than
I should
that
probably
website.
do that first.
But okay, but if I don't have a website, then I really have nothing to protect. So you're
Yeah.
totally caught in the
You're like,
chicken
do
and
I
the egg
build
thing.
all of this stuff or do I worry about protecting all of the stuff that I've built?
Yeah. Oh,
If
yeah.
I don't
It's
build it, I can't afford to protect it. But
right.
if I build it and don't protect it, it could all be taken away.
Yes.
Yeah, so you're
Yeah.
just kind of like caught in that. So talking with you, I mean, if anybody who's listening to this has any kind of questions about what makes legal sense for their business, or if they're just like, does
Mhm.
it make sense for me to worry about the legal aspects before I worry about building things? If they're stuck anywhere in that confusion, we're going to have
Mhm.
Tamsen's contact information up for Deja Vu
Mhm.
Law. For Vuja de Law. I'm so
There
sorry.
you go.
I
It's okay.
always say deja vu.
It's
For
okay.
I will have it correctly displayed. So, and it will say Vuja de Law. So that people can get in touch with you and set up their consultation with you
Mhm.
because it's really such an important investment, not just in like setting up your business, but just for your own peace of mind.
Mhm.
Because it's always in the back of your mind, like
Mhm.
maybe something will happen and I should have taken care of it. Like it's
Mhm.
something will slip, important will slip through the cracks. It's like that.
Mhm.
And when you just have a conversation, I'm just telling everybody, have a conversation with Tamsen.
Mhm.
It will be worthwhile. You'll feel better at the
Mhm.
end of it and you'll know what you need to do next.
Yeah.
Um, and I know that one thing that's really big, I'm a relationship coach, so I work with emerging entrepreneurs who are female entrepreneurs who are trying to get the emotional support that they need in their relationships so that they can launch. And we know
Mhm.
how important that is to invest in and to have because if you're
Mhm.
it's like the legal aspect. If you're trying to launch and you don't have that support, you get burnt out, you don't have
Mhm.
anybody to sound off of, you just
Mhm.
it's impossible to do it in an
Mhm.
emotional support vacuum. You just can't do it.
Yeah. No,
So, yeah, so it's definitely worth investing in. But I know that other relationship coaches or even just other entrepreneurs, one of the big things right now for us is courses, online courses.
mm,
And one of the big things that people ask about is, okay, so if I do this online course, how do I protect my content? How do I know that I'm okay? I'm not like infringing on any weird copyright stuff. How do I know I'm okay? And I know that you have a course that you've created that helps people with
I
that.
have. Yes, I did. It's called Check Your Course. And it really is, um, it feels like I've been pregnant for about 87 months, trying to get this, because I started out as an atypical lawyer and it was like this big. I mean, my course was like huge because I was covering, covering every base. And then I thankfully had a miraculous person in one of my masterminds, and she's like, Tamsen, it's just a checklist. Like, that's all you want to give people to start is, what's your checklist? Like, if you're, pilots, and what's their checklist as they go into takeoff, which is what we do when we launch. And that's all that's what Check Your Course does. Is it's a very, well, as you know, with mind maps, legal, I wish legal was like step 1, step 2, 3.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't. It's like, okay, 1, if A, then go this way. It's a
Right.
huge choose your adventure,
Right.
which is why we have to go to school. Just makes me feel like, school was worth it, because it's like,
Right.
oh, that's why I spent all that money and all that time, was
So
to
that I
figure out how
can
to play.
navigate the if then.
Yeah, so I can play Choose Your Own Adventure. Okay, that was a book I read like in second grade. But yes, Check Your Course is helping people launch safely and launch protected, and make sure that you're covering, people that you hire to make your course. A huge problem right now is VAs that steal passwords and information and wreak havoc behind the scenes in a launch.
Wow.
Copyright is huge. How do you protect your stuff long term? And then how do you make sure that you're, like you said, not infringing on someone else's? And there's different rules, whether it's written words and audio and video. And then, trademark. That's the biggest one, because people name their course
Mm-hmm.
and they don't run a trademark search. And then they spend all this money and all this time getting the perfect course done and ready to go. And then they get a cease and desist letter in their email that says, I own this and you may now stop. And you're
Yeah.
like, seriously? I mean, it's so deflating. And I've
It
had
is.
clients on both sides of the equation. But that's why I designed it, was because I lived behind launches for about 3 years. And I still do some behind the scenes stuff. But my goal was to get out in front of the problem and to say, hey, I call them launching landmines. Like, hey, here's the problem. But if we know where it is, we can just walk around it.
Mm-hmm.
And then it won't blow up in our face, and there won't be, injuries or any of that stuff. So yes, that's
so
my,
great.
it's like my favorite little, well, besides Kip, it's like my favorite little baby, because it's taken so much to get it out there.
Yeah.
But it does so much good, where people look at it and they go, oh, that was so easy. Oh,
Yeah.
I was worrying about this for no reason. And then the flip side, oh my
Oh,
goodness,
maybe I need to pay
Tamsen.
attention to this.
Oh yeah.
I need to
Yeah,
fix this.
I mean that's the surprising part, is there's so many people that say, I never thought of that. I'm
Yeah.
like, and that's why I'm here, is so that you
Right.
think about it now, while you can plan for it and accommodate it, and then, because it's always at least 3 times more expensive after the
To
fact.
try to fix it. And that's, I was just going to mention that, because it's so important to just, like, I think a lot of people think, a lot of entrepreneurs think, I can't afford to hire an attorney. They all, like, they are afraid of the cost of it, and they don't think as much about what it would cost them not to have an attorney,
Yeah.
and to have to bring somebody in to respond to a legal emergency, and how expensive that is. And it's such a great it's just such a great thing for your peace of mind to know, like, my bases are covered, like, I'm good. And it doesn't have to cost people as much as they think it's going to cost. I'm not sure what your current consultation rate is. So I'm not going to talk about what I paid. I'm just going to say that the cost was totally negligible compared to the peace of mind that I got from the conversation.
Yeah. And the piece that people think of, and traditional law has just given lawyers a bad rap. It just has. And that's part of the reason that I created Vujade, which, means to see it from a new perspective. I just turned all of law on its head. And what people don't, they just don't ask. And it's like, okay, but if you had asked me, I would have told you that was $147.
Yeah.
Now it's 800. And they're
Yeah.
like, really? That was all? I'm like, just
Yeah.
ask. Like,
Yeah.
just type an email or go to a website. Just ask, because it really, attorneys, especially modern ones, and ones that I've gotten my hands on, it's like leverage technology and able to give people options. Here's, like you said, the consult does wonders because it allows you to go, oh, I don't need to think about all these things. Nope, not at all. Just this.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, here's a DIY option. Here's DIY phone a friend, and here's just Tamsen, take it over.
Right.
So there's always a way to get what you need.
Mm-hmm.
And what I tell people is add up everything you're spending on your business. Every landing page, every coach, every, graphic, all that, add it all up. Like, what is your launch really costing you? And then say, okay, well, what's the legal part?
Mm-hmm.
Up to about, 10% that's a very generous number. And rarely does it ever cost that much.
Yeah.
And so that's the part, is just ask, just ask somebody, what's it going to cost me? Because so many people don't ask. They just assume because they hear lawyer.
Mm-hmm.
And like I said, my profession has given ourselves that bad rap,
Mm-hmm.
but just ask, because it really is, there is an affordable and accessible and an understandable price point
Mm-hmm.
for you somewhere. There
Yes.
really is. That
Absolutely.
does not involve Google.
Yeah.
Google is not lost.
No.
Not Google. Please don't depend on Google. It's not law
You
school.
can only go so far with free information. It's free, it's some of the information is worthwhile, but it's hard to get to. Some of the information is good, but it doesn't apply specifically to you. I mean, it's like you really can just go so far with it. And I think that one of the things that's so important is like it's really about the mindset shift of going from like, am I going to just do this as an amateur or am I going to go pro? Because when you're like, I'm going to go pro as an entrepreneur, I'm a professional business owner, this is what I do. That's when you shift and go, okay, what do I need to invest in protecting my business? And that's what I've seen so often. Because like I said, my clients come to me for relationship coaching, but they're entrepreneurs. So often we'll start talking about different aspects of their business. And, that's one of the things that I've noticed in their mindset is the ones that are thinking about their business as professionals and they're really ready to go up to the next level. They're always open to that discussion about like, okay, so are you going to copyright that, or they're always thinking about that, or they're always they mention that, and it's really like the distinction.
You're exactly right. And I've come to the realization, I'm writing a book right now, and don't have a catchy title for it yet, but I realized, everyone is so tuned into the mindset of limiting beliefs and smashing through the, law of attraction, whatever label you want to put on it. And as I was watching people and going through my own, like, oh, well, no, I can totally do that, and had to smash some of my own limiting beliefs. I was like, okay, but now you're copying and pasting at midnight for law. That's a limiting belief. Like, you're saying my business isn't good enough to go pro in this area.
Right.
And I was like, smash that sucker. Like, if what you're creating is valuable, if you really believe in what you're doing, protect it. Just like we do with our kids.
Right.
It's like, okay, I love you. I'm going to make sure you're safe.
Right.
I'm going to protect you. If you're going outside in the winter, I live in Michigan, you need a heavy coat and snow pants and the whole 9 yards. And even in April, we had snow last night. I'm about to cry. But you protect what matters. And so it is.
And it sends it's a very clear sign that you're saying, I think when I totally agree with what you're saying, because it's about like you demonstrate that to the universe. You get back what you put out.
Absolutely.
And if you say,
absolutely,
I'm protecting this, I'm investing in this because it's important, I think it's worthwhile, then it starts to be more successful, because it's like, well, then you get that back. It's definitely one of those universal laws. And that's another thing that's so interesting is like, How many attorneys are you going to get to talk to who understand those types of universal laws and are also moms? So if your toddler runs in naked in the middle of your call, they're like, it's fine.
It's fine.
It's totally
Yeah,
okay.
it's totally good. Yeah, mine'll probably be running in the background, right after yours. Which I remember, I think we were on our call and you had to like leave for a second. You were like, I'm so sorry.
I
I'm so
was.
sorry. I was like, seriously? Just call me back when it's
You're like, you
convenient.
can call me back. Yeah, my daughter was freaking out about something
Yeah,
random. I don't even remember what it was now, but her favorite thing in the world now is to just be totally naked because she's 3.5. So she's like,
mhm.
and I can't even be mad at her because,
No.
I love to be totally naked too. I mean, it's
Yeah.
it's genetic. Like she gets it from me. If I didn't have other people living with me all the time, I'd probably spend most of my time at home naked. So it's like I can never be mad at her about that,
No.
you know.
No.
But it's
Really,
so
it's
great to be able to work with other people and have
who
other
get it.
resources who get that. And
Mhm.
your area of expertise is so specialized that like I'm really glad that I'm going to be able to include you in the resources for my clients who I
Mhm.
love and want to see get a good start in what they're doing. So this is just so great. I'm so glad that you'll be able to be a good resource for them. Um, and so the next
Absolutely.
thing, speaking of my clients, they always want to know about what other entrepreneurs' relationships are like. So that's one of the things that we're going to talk about. It is your relationship, and I understand, and you're married, right?
I am.
And how long
I
have you
am.
guys been married? Tell us about your relationship.
I don't think
Whatever
our
you want to
interview is that
share.
long. I don't think our interview is that long.
Well, then you can
Yes.
tell us about how you met.
No, the very I have the perfect husband, mate, whatever for me. We actually met online. It was December of '06, and we just got along great. Like he was one of those people that you were like, and I had dated losers. Like when I say losers, I mean supporting, you know, sloth on my credit card, like really bad.
Yeah.
Again, all came back to me because I wasn't strong in my self-worth like I am now. That was many, many moons ago. But anyhow, met Chris and like we just clicked and it was just fun. And so I worked for a trademark licensing company at the time. This was before I was a lawyer. And we just had a great Christmas party. And so I invited him to the Christmas party. Unbeknownst to me, he had dated really clingy girls before. And so he disappeared. Like he was gone. Like he just vanished off the face of the earth. And I was like, well, bummer, because like he was
I liked
really
that
cool.
guy.
I
Yeah.
liked him. But I was like, okay, if he scared away that quickly, he really wasn't worth it. And okay, now at least I know what I want. Like I
Mm-hmm.
know I want a healthy individual. I want someone who's positive and encouraging and not just a taker because I'm a giver
Mm-hmm.
by nature. And so I actually sold everything I owned. I was moving to go back to Boston to go to law school. And about fast forward 6 months, we were in the middle of summer. I sold everything. I'm moving back east. And my phone rings and it's Chris. And I'm like, what the heck? And and as soon as my phone rang, I knew I was going to marry him. Like as soon as he came back, I was like, I know. Just don't invite him to any parties. Just play it cool. Like okay.
Just take a deep
But
breath. Be cool.
yeah, but a week before his phone call, I was talking with my family who lives back east, and we were kind of going through some stuff. And so I changed my mind and decided to stay in Michigan. I had a really good scholarship, and I had never lived in a big city. Like I had visited, but I had never navigated traffic or all that goes into living in Boston or New York. And so I changed my plans, and then Chris called, and that was it. I was like, okay, universe, I got it. I got it. We're staying put. I'm getting new furniture apparently now, but okay, new furniture, new, husband to be at some point. Okay, it's a pretty good
You're like,
deal.
I can do that.
Yeah. So we started dating 3 weeks before I started law school.
Wow.
Um, yeah, which it's probably wasn't like the help. Like, well, it was exactly what we needed it to be actually. Um, so we started law school, and that's how he knew me, was as this stressed out, studying all the time, person. But I was doing what I loved, and so it worked. And we realized very quickly, he would say, are you done? And I would say, honey, I will be done when I pass the bar exam. Like,
Mm-hmm.
we need to change the question, because he would get frustrated, which is understandable because it was just a really intense period of my life,
Right.
somewhat all consuming. And because I tend to be a very type A person, I was like, no, I need to study more because I want a better grade.
Mm-hmm.
And so we learned really quickly that sometimes we just needed to change the questions.
Mm.
And so he would say, are you at a point you can stop? Are you at a point you could take a break?
Yeah.
And that gave me the freedom to say, I can't right now, I'm on a roll, but let me get to this point, and then, yeah, I can take a stopping point. And he always knew and he's funny. He tells these stories far better than I do, because I used to pull him onto every spouse panel they ever had in law school. They always invited us because I think he's so darn entertaining. But if I called him and said, okay, he would say, is it stage 5? Like, stage 5 was like the highest amount of stress. And he knew that meant a certain kind of wine, Lindor truffles, and a certain kind of pizza. And so if I texted him, because we had one car, so if I texted him and said, I need pizza, he was like, oh, that's stage 1, not
Right.
a big deal. But if I said wine, pizza, chocolate, he was like, okay,
Okay, stage
stage 5
5.
meltdown. Yeah. So we just had a lot of humor, and we, we just learned how to ask the different questions
Mm-hmm.
about, okay, what do you need? Which was hard because I wasn't in a place where I could give all that much.
Mm-hmm.
And then we went right from law school to becoming an attorney to becoming parents. And I would say kids, or Kip, we only have one right now, that's when it really shifted for us, because life is so easy when you don't have children. Oh my
But you
goodness.
don't realize it until you have kids, and then you're like, oh my God, what was I complaining about?
Exactly. You're just like, holy cow. Like, can we do this? I'm like, okay, seriously. We have plenty of degrees between us. We're highly
Yeah.
educated.
Right.
Like,
This should be fine.
we should be. And
Right.
I was the one, like, I read a book. The book says, throw
Yeah.
all books away.
Yeah.
Um,
The book
but
says,
what worked,
don't ever let them sleep with you. And then it's like, 3 o'clock in the morning and nobody has slept for weeks. And you're like, you know what? We're
keep me
all
calm.
sleep. Yeah.
Yeah. Kip will be 4 in May. Kip sleeps with us. Which, again, I was the mother, what is it, baby wise? Oh, which, no offense to anyone, if that works for you, awesome. It did not work for us.
Yeah.
But I was okay, it's always fun to watch academics have children,
Oh, yeah.
because
Yeah. Because
they read books.
we're so used to getting all of our information that way. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
And if I do this, then it works this way. And there might
Yeah.
be some negligible human element, but
Right.
it always works.
Statistically insignificant, for some
Oh,
people. It might not
yeah,
work for some people, but that's not the norm.
that's
Yeah.
not me.
Right.
My baby won't do that.
Because I'm going to
So,
execute this strategy perfectly.
exactly. Like, they were messing up the formula. As my stance now, when people say, oh, what was it like becoming a mom? I'm like, if there's a book written by Dr. Joe, Stan, Steve, or Frank, throw it away. Because he was in his office working on that PhD and that theory, and his wife was at home with the 7 children
Right.
saying, whatever you want to write about, dear, I don't care.
Right.
But that was not happening at his house. There's no way. But we just would reframe questions, and like sleeping for you, we just sat down and said, okay, what's the main goal here? Is the goal that he sleeps in his crib, or is the goal that we sleep?
Mm-hmm.
For me, my goal is I want to sleep.
Mm-hmm.
He's not going to sleep in my bed when he's in college. I know that. So what's our goal? What's the focus? And then trust yourself, trust your relationship. And, because Chris, he struggles with it more than I do, of, well, he shouldn't do this and he shouldn't do that. And I go, okay, but why?
Mm-hmm.
Says who?
Yeah.
Is
it just because I have a belief that he shouldn't do that and that's a
No.
rigid thing in my mind? Or is it because there's an actual safety related issue or health related issue where it makes a difference? Yeah.
Exactly. And that's where, especially in business, relating this to business, when you see people, oh, they did this and this and this, you don't know what goes on behind closed doors.
Yeah.
Anyone can put stuff out on Facebook, anyone can make. So, what I always tell people is just do what's right for you, whether it being a mom, being a woman, being a business owner, what is right for you. Make sure you get the educate, what information do you need to make the right choice. But that's what we've done for our relationship. And I will tell you our saving grace is popsicle sticks. And I'll give you the link because you can read this. But I figured out if I put like all my house chores on popsicle sticks and they put them all in a jar at the beginning of the week, then whenever you have like 10, 5-10 minutes, whatever, like the whole house would get clean throughout the week. And then I didn't feel like it was all on me.
Yeah.
And he didn't feel like it was all on him. And then like just a couple months ago, I got really smart and I added dollar amounts to him. So he gets 50 cents for making the bed and like $1 for emptying the dishwasher. But it's like done all the time. That has been the best thing for our relationship ever.
That is so great.
Popsicle sticks. Like it is the best home management system, bar none. Like
I
it's
love
the
that.
best thing. It is the best thing. And people,
Please give me the link and I will post it with
I
this
will.
video.
Oh my gosh, it's the best thing. And you can use it for older kids, younger kids, however many people are in your house. But that's the hard part. Like as moms, it's like we take on so much. And I think part of it is however we've gotten that built into our brains. I've got to do this and this and this. And sometimes you have to. It's out of necessity.
Right.
But sometimes you just take on more and then you start resenting the other person. Like, seriously, really? You can't unload the dishwasher?
Mm-hmm.
And I think Chris, on a good week, he might get like somewhere between $12 and $15. It's the cheapest housekeeper ever. Like, it's awesome. And he's so happy because he wants to beat me. And so it's like this little competition. And you're like, okay, we're beating each other and we're having fun and we're getting stuff done. Yeah. And that for us, like as parents of a toddler with me running a business and him working full time, it just creates the space for us to actually have a relationship.
Yeah. And for it to be fun. And for it not to be that every conversation, because you have those very few conversations if you somehow manage to get a date night together, which is like so rare. Everybody always tells you to do that, right? And it's like, yeah, twice a year we did that. I think we got in-laws to babysit on our anniversary and then maybe on my birthday. You know what I mean? It's like those kinds of things.
Yeah.
And those are the times when you like actually are talking to your partner. Mm-hmm. Because every other conversation you usually have is like, okay, I don't want to forget to tell you that we have to do this thing, and this is happening on Thursday, and it's all like the honey-do list or the we can't forget this thing list or this thing is next or whatever. It's all the have-tos, and when you make the have-tos a fun thing that just gets done whenever and it becomes like a game, that's such a brilliant and simple and easy thing. And like you said, academics, like you and I, we do tend to overthink things and make it like way more difficult than it needs to be. And I was so cracking up when you were talking about your course because it's like I've done exactly the same thing. Like my degree is in counseling, and when you're just used to like you just think like I have to give everybody every possible piece of information that might be helpful for them, like every possible piece, and it's just not digestible. Like 9 times out of 10, they didn't need all that extra information. And seeing that, that volume, that dense thickness of information just makes people go, I'm not even going to look at any of this now.
Well, it's like the car manufacturers finally got smart. And now, when you get your car, there's the manual that's this big. And then there's like the quick start guide.
Quick start guide. The quick start guide is brilliant.
Right. Which 90% of people don't even read the quick start guide, but at least you're like, okay, I'll read the quick start one. And I always laugh because when they give us, they're giving you all the car manuals and they're like, here, just put it in your glove compartment. Nobody reads them. And I'm like, I actually do.
I actually read the quick start guide at
I
least.
actually do. I actually do guide because that's just me. Actually, for the once I had Kip, I have it. I'm a quick start person now on
Right.
that aspect. But it's exactly
That's
right. It's like,
downgrading for an academic because you're
yeah,
used to reading the thick
yeah,
one.
yeah. And because I work with a lot of attorneys, educating a lot of attorneys on how to run businesses, and it's like, no, the mark of a really good professional is someone who can explain their craft in Sesame Street terms,
Right.
because that shows you know it so well that you're like, look, I had to learn all this stuff, but this is what you need. And here is why it's like building blocks, or
Yeah.
here is like, this is how it works, because that's what your job really
Yeah.
is, okay, I'm trusting you. Give me the quick start guide. Tell me
Yeah.
what I need to know and keep me safe.
Give me
But
the
yeah,
bullet points and just the stuff that applies to me.
yes,
Absolutely. Yeah.
yeah. So that's, yeah. But popsicle sticks is my simplistic. I solve everything with
That
popsicle
is
sticks.
one of the most brilliant, I think, pieces of relationship advice that
It's
I've ever got. And I will totally
it's
share
so
that with
fun.
my clients if I have your
It's
permission.
Oh yeah. Oh my
Okay.
gosh, totally. And we actually you can take it too, because you can turn it into reward sticks.
Mm-hmm.
Like we just added like I said, we haven't had money on ours forever because it didn't matter. It was like, whatever. But we'd have fun things like go for a bike ride, or like you can tie whatever it is that you want to do with it.
Mm-hmm.
It, it works. And then you're like, okay, I don't have to think about it. I just it's a game, and you're like, it's popsicle sticks, which we actually reused ours because Kip gets a popsicle when he's in the shower or when he takes a bath, because he had a May birthday, and so we spent all summer his first year having popsicles, and then just how I came up with this idea. Then when it hit October or September when the pool closed, and he couldn't have popsicles outside anymore, here's this poor 1.5-year-old going, I want a popsicle. And I was like, oh no, what do I do? I was like, oh, you can have popsicles in the shower. That's where you eat popsicles in our house, in the shower. And so it's turned into this, like he has a popsicle every night in the shower. And I had all these popsicle sticks. And I was like, oh, well, I could use those. So I like stuck them in a cup and wrote things on them. And I'm like, oh, this will be easy. So yeah, it's worked out. Best relationship, parenting, family. It works for everything.
That is so great. I was just reading, like just this morning, I was reading an article I want to say it was in Entrepreneur, and it was about how to make sure you stay on task with goals. And they described as like a method where you have paper clips. So you have two empty paperclip containers, and if, like, say you're trying to make calls, and you need to make 20 calls a day, so you have 20 paper clips, and every time you make a call, you just move one over, which is
Yep.
like a totally cheap, easy thing that you can also do if you're just tracking numbers of things.
Mm-hmm.
But I love the popsicle stick idea for like getting specific chores done with
Mm-hmm.
specific like rewards for them. That's
Mm-hmm.
just so great. And I think so many people can use that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
works. That's my best. That's how we keep you know, that is what allowed us to stay sane. That, that, and when I'm being ridiculous, no one can make fun of me like Chris can. And just when he tells me about myself, I just crack up because I'm like, you're right. I'm being beyond ridiculous. And it's just, that's when you've got a good friend, because you're just
Yeah.
like, you're right. I am completely ridiculous.
Yes. Because the
Got it.
friendship part is so important.
Yeah. Oh, that's the biggest part.
I remember my husband pointing out to me, he said, anytime something happens two or more times, you always say, when you're upset, you always say, it always happens. He was the one that pointed that out to me. He's like, all it has to do is happen two or more times. And you're like, oh, it always happens like this and that. It
Mm-hmm.
really gave me like a good, okay, I'll keep that in perspective,
Uh-huh.
because it's so funny, like you said, when they see you that clearly, you
Yeah.
always feel that, like, initially when they say something like that, you're like,
Mm-hmm.
and then you think about it and you're like, oh, that's probably true.
Yeah.
And it depends on how they say it too.
Uh-huh. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Which, Chris is very good at knowing when to say it. And I think that's the other piece is we just we know not to have, and law school trained us. I mean, we just know you don't have really deep discussions when you're exhausted. And
Yeah.
we're both morning people. And so, if it's after 7:30, like, don't talk about anything major. Like, just go to sleep. It'll be so much better in the morning. Get up in the morning, and talk about it.
Yeah.
So, because you can just say a lot of things you don't want to say and make decisions you shouldn't be making. And you're like, really, you were just tired,
Yeah. Because
which
that
is,
makes such a huge difference. That's something
yeah.
moms get for sure on like a
Mm-hmm.
foundation level. Because I
Yeah.
think the exhaustion at the beginning of motherhood is unlike anything else in the world. And you're
Oh.
just switching gears to this entirely new
Mm-hmm.
life. It's like you just landed on this planet and you're like, I don't really know what the rules are here yet. And it was really
Survival.
hard to get here. So I'm going to need a minute. And
Yeah.
it's a time in your life when you don't get a minute. you
No,
know,
no. You pretty
you
much start out in a deficit.
yeah,
Now,
your
yeah,
resources are the lowest, but your
oh,
your requirement,
demands.
yeah, the demands are
Yeah,
the highest. Yeah, exactly.
yeah, yeah. Everyone would ask for Kip's first birthday, oh, what's your theme? What are you doing? And I was like, Survivor. We're going with a Survivor theme. Everyone is still alive. That's it. That's my theme.
That's
I'm
what we're
done.
celebrating.
Like, that's all I got for you, people. I have not had time to come up with a theme for the freaking
Our
birthday
theme is
party.
birthday.
Yeah, there will be cake. We will be happy. And really, it should be all about me because that day was far harder on me than it was on him.
Because I'm the one who's actually been doing everything for the last year. He hasn't really
Pretty
done
much.
that much.
Nope. No, that's it.
I know. I
Yeah.
know.
Oh, yeah.
Well, Tamsen, thank you so
Oh,
much for taking
oh,
time
you're
to talk
welcome.
with us. I know that so many of your insights are so valuable for my audience, and that they really want to know that they're okay legally, and that everything they're building is going to be protected. So why don't you tell us how people can get in touch with you if they have questions for you?
The best way is just start at my website, which Krista will have the information up there. And then from there, you can follow me on social media. I'm always available on Facebook. I'm there pretty much all the time because where else do moms hang out? And if you have questions, really shoot me an email. I answer all of them, or message me on social media. But just start at the website. There's resources, and I'm launching a new site shortly. So it'll actually have like a video library where it will walk you through, like, step one, protecting your business. Like, where do you start? Kind of that mind map that I used for consults. I'm using that now as a foundation on the website. So, but just ask, reach out and ask. Hopefully you've gathered from us talking that I'm not scary. I would, just ask, don't let fear stop you. Just shoot an email. Trust me, I get plenty of them say, I have no idea what I'm even supposed to be asking you, but I don't know what to do.
Right.
I know what you need to do. So I can give you an answer even if you can't ask a question.
Just
So
ask. Yes.
just ask. Do not sit in the corner and make it 87 times worse than it
Needs
never
to
was
be.
to begin with.
Yeah. And it's really, that's the thing about going pro, is
Mm-hmm.
getting the real information from the people who can help you, and investing
Yes.
in that way in your business. That's how you go
Yes.
pro. So, yeah.
Yep. Yep.
So,
I have not had a single business that didn't go pro that hasn't made it. Like,
yeah.
everyone that's taken care of legal has done what they set out to do.
Yeah. Because that's part of the mindset. Definitely.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Well, thank you, Tamsen. Thank you so much.
No
And
worries.
we'll have links to the things that we talked about just right below this video so people can check that out. And I'll also have your website up so that people will know where to find you.
Perfect.
And thank you so much.
You are so welcome.